What do I think of your Premier League team? Today I'm going to be covering every single team in the Premier League from Liverpool right down to Wolves. And I'm going to be giving my opinions on their fan base and give them a rating on rate. I will be considering atmosphere, the stadium, and many different factors of the football club to decide if they've got a good fan base or not. Hello and welcome to the Blue Dragon YouTube channel, your home of all things Premier League, Championship, and sometimes international football. There's often weekly uploads on all things football. If you do end up enjoying the video, then please leave a like and subscribe as we are extremely close to 100 subscribers. Put down in the comments what you think about your own team, and please remember that this is all just my opinion. But let's get on with the video. Nottingham Forest. To start us off, I've gone with one of the best fan bases not only in the Premier League but in England. Nottingham Forest are a club with a deep history. For example, winning the Champions League back-to-back under Brian Clough must have been absolutely incredible. And obviously that's going to draw in many fans, and that's exactly what happened for Nottingham Forest. There is a lot of competition in the Midlands area. You've got the likes of Birmingham, Aston Villa, and many more, but still you have Go Forest, a club with such a large fan base and social media following, and they take a lot to away games as well. It will be questionable to see if they can survive this season, but personally after the start, they have had, I think they will, and if their fans can get behind them, then it'll be a massive part of their survival campaign. I'm going to give Forest an 8 out of 10 just because of the deep history and a loyal fan base which stretches worldwide. Aston Villa. Aston Villa for some time now have been the sleeping giants of English football. After being promoted back to the Premier League in, I think, the 2019 season, Aston Villa have just gotten better and better. And under Unai Emery, they have managed to qualify for the Champions League, and the fan base was a massive part of that. Aston Villa is a huge club with a deep history and really shouldn't have been in the Championship in the first place. I think eventually I do see Aston Villa challenging for the titles, as they are a club that have that big enough fan base, and their fan base stretches across the Midlands and the entire of England. So I am going to rate Aston Villa at 8.5 out of 10, as in my opinion, they are the biggest club in the Midlands. Newcastle United. Newcastle United, and in fact the entire of the North East region, is in their own words football mad. As well as being one of the loudest and passionate fans in the country slightly to the north of Newcastle, there is Sunderland, who also have an extremely passionate fan base, and we all know how intense that rivalry can be. On the pitch, Newcastle have made huge strides, even featuring in last season's Champions League, and it's clear that the fan base both home and away has been massive for them in recent times. Overall, I would rate Newcastle fans an 8.5 out of 10, with them being one of the best supported clubs in the Premier League. Ipswich Town. Ipswich Town Football Club have throughout the years have gone up and down many times. As we all know, they recently got promoted from League One to the Championship and Championship to the Premier League. In only a couple of seasons, they did it back to back. This season, they're trying to fight for their survival in the Premier League. As for the fans, they have a good rivalry with Norwich, and Norfolk is a very football place. There's lots of fans around there. And many of them do support Ipswich Town. It is a club that has a very old history, and it goes back until 1878. And I remember last season in the Championship, when Ipswich came to Cardiff, they took loads and loads of fans with them, probably because they were doing so well at that time, but also because of how big the fan base actually are. It just goes to show, and they were getting almost 30,000 regularly in the Championship and selling out their home stadium, which of course is Portman Road, so I'm going to give Ipswich an 8 out of 10. Brentford. Next up is Brentford. Now, to be honest, I do not rate Brentford fans very highly, but to be honest with you, there aren't that many to rate. What Brentford have done is bought a stadium that is far too large for their fan base, and it's only got about a 20,000 capacity, but it still sells out every week because it is Premier League football. Apart from a very few Brentford fans, the stadium is mostly filled up with tourists and people who really don't care very much about the football. Meaning that the stadium is often called quiet and soulless by many. Also, the stadium looks like something built out of Minecraft, so I'm sorry, Brentford fans, but I am going to have to rate you a 4 out of 10. Brighton. For many years, I thought of Brighton as a smaller club, but recently they have moved into the Amex Stadium and have grown massively as a fan base. The club sit on the south coast where there's many options for football. You could go to Portsmouth, you could go to Southampton, you could even go to Bournemouth. So I think it shows a lot of strength of football club. However, whenever I watch Brighton on TV, they seem to always have empty seats at the stadium, which I think is quite poor for a Premier League club. The fans are well known for being Chelsea fans. They don't always produce the greatest of atmosphere, but on occasions they can, especially when their side is playing well. And overall, I would rate Brighton another 5 out of 10. Southampton. Next up, we have got Southampton. The atmosphere at St Mary's can differ from time to time. Sometimes it can be electric, and sometimes, as we saw a lot, the season before last in the 22/23 season, it can be quite poor. Southampton football fans are mainly famous for their rivalry with neighbours Portsmouth, who have also got a very good fan base that goes back decades and decades. In the 90s and 2000s, Southampton did have a much better time football-wise, but to be fair to the fans, stuck with them through ups and downs through the relegations and promotions. But last season, trough the playoffs, they finally made it back to the Premier League. I'm going to rate their fans a solid 6 out of 10. They are better than a lot of clubs in the Premier League. But again, similar to Brighton, not really anything special, but they've got more passion, I think, than a lot of clubs. Leicester. I think it's safe to say that Leicester fans have been through a lot in recent years, losing their owner, winning the Premier League, being relegated, being promoted. Everything that could go right and wrong for Leicester in recent years has happened. But this season they are back. I think it says a lot about a club's fan base when they are still able to sell out their stadium after being relegated. And no doubt they will continue to sell out their stadium in the Premier League. They are one of the biggest clubs in the Midlands and are known for their consistent high attendances, no matter what division they are in. As a fan base, I rate Leicester a 6.5 out of 10, as they don't have many fans across the country. Fulham. The Cottagers are known for being one of the poshest clubs in England. Away Days even did a video on it. The atmosphere at Craven Cottage can be a little dry at times. There tends to be more wealthy people than ordinary ones, meaning that there isn't as much chanting amongst the crowds. But Fulhamers do take great pride in their football club, and there is no doubt that they have got a very solid fan base of people. One of the negatives about Fulham is the clappers, which, if I'm honest, I do find a bit strange for a football game. But overall, they do have an established fan base and a lot of history behind them. But when including the clappers and overall atmosphere, I'm going to have to put them down to a 6 out of 10. Everton. Toffee fans are well known across the country, as most Scousers are to be very passionate about their football. In fact, in my personal opinion, they're better than Liverpool fans. But I'll get onto the Liverpool a bit later. Everton fans well known for being quite loud and passionate. And also, this is their last year of Goodison Park, so they want to make the season a special one. Sean Dyche is currently at the helm of Everton Football Club, and in recent years the club have been finding themselves lower and lower down the Premier League table. However, I think they will be able to get out of the relegation picture this time around, but as a fan base I am going to rate Everton a 7 out of 10, which I think is pretty solid. Wolves. Wolves at the moment sit bottom of the Premier League table. I'm not a big fan of Wolves, if I'm being honest with you. I think that Wolves are a very average side in the Premier League, and I think their fan base reflects that. As for the football, I do think they stay up this season. They do have a solid fan base, a well-established one at that, and decent history behind them. But I can never see Wolves being more than a mid-table club. And as I've already said, that I don't think their fan base is a very big one. It is worth noting there are many football clubs in that area similar to London clubs, so it is hard for them to get many supporters. But I still think that Wolves has got a decent fan base, but I wouldn't call them anything special. So I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10 straight down the middle. West Ham. The Hammers are famous for being one of the hardest sets of football fans in England. Similar to their rivals Millwall is, no doubt West Ham fans are very passionate about their football club and are extremely happy when the team wins, extremely sad when the team loses, as are most football fans from East London. One of the things that I maybe don't like about this fan base isn't the fan base at all. It's the stadium. I think it makes fans feel very far away from the pitch. It doesn't connect the players very well with their fans, as it is an athletic stadium. However, I'm always impressed at the amount of people that go to West Ham away games. It always looks like they're having a good time in that away end, so I am going to give West Ham a rating of 7/10. Crystal Palace. Next up we have Crystal Palace, who many consider to be the most boring side in the whole of the Premier League. I personally do not agree with this, but I can see their point, as they are 11th to 12th every single season. But their fans must be very proud of the team. After being promoted from the Championship a fair few years ago, now they have managed to establish themselves as a solid side in the Premier League. And I have to say their fans reflect that. Every time I've seen Selhurst Park, there's always fans jumping up and down and the team getting on the front foot. And it looks like there's a great atmosphere. Selhurst Park has been a pain for all the big teams to go to in recent seasons, and a large part of that is obviously because of the fans and the team. So with that in mind, I'm going to give Crystal Palace 7 out of 10, which is pretty good. Bournemouth. The Cherries are a team who 10 years ago absolutely nobody in the country had heard of them, but thanks to Eddie Howe, all of a sudden decided he was going to be the next Pep Guardiola. They somehow pulled off an escape from League Two. They got into the Premier League, which was one of England's greatest. Fairy tales. But since then, I don't think the fan base had really had much time to catch up. Last year, they averaged around 10. 0-0-0 again in the Premier League. I think they need to get a new stadium fast if they want to stay in the Premier League, because other clubs have got a huge financial advantage. So I'm going to give their fan base a 5 out of 10, as there are some really good solid fans there, but a lot of new plastic. One similar to Brentford. Manchester City. Well, I'm sure a lot of you have got mixed opinions on the Manchester City fan base, but there's no point denying their quality and talent on and off the pitch in both recruiting and putting the ball in the back of the net. As a fan base, I have to be honest, out of the 50,000 people going to watch Manchester City every week, I think about 50% of them really care about what they're winning the game for Manchester City. Most are just tourists and people who don't care about the football club. Let's all be honest, Manchester City have built its success on oil money. But having said that, they are a load of passionate Manchester City fans who were there long before the success, and those fans deserve to have all glory. But there are many glory fans of Manchester City who don't live anywhere near Manchester and have zero connections, so for that I'm going to have to bump down their score. I'm going to give Manchester City a 6 out of 10. Manchester United. Now, similar to their neighbours, Manchester City have gone up. Manchester United have had a massive dip in recent years. There was times when they were winning the Champions League, the FA Cup, and the Premier League all in one season, similar to what Manchester City did in 2023. But sadly for United, those days have gone, and now Old Trafford looks very run down. And pretty much since the early 2000s, Manchester United fan base have turned into mostly glory fans if you go to Manchester United now or Old Trafford. You'll see the stadium is full up with tourists, just like Manchester City, really, cause these football clubs are so big, they attract so many tourists, there are not much real football fans. Also, there are a lot of genuine United fans in and around Manchester. But again, there are a lot of glory supporters, similar to Manchester City up and down the country, who support Manchester United for the success, even if they haven't had a lot of success in recent seasons. However, they have got fan base which stretches worldwide, and for that I'm going to have to give Manchester United a 7 out of 10. Chelsea. I have actually done an entire video on the past, future and present of Chelsea Football Club, so if you haven't checked that out, then please do so. But since the Abramovich takeover in 2003, similar to Manchester City, their fan base has risen dramatically. Like all of the big 6 clubs in England, they do have their fair share of tourists and glory supporters. But I would say that they probably have the best fan base out of all Big Six clubs, as they take many fans to away games and their home atmosphere is always very passionate. And even though Chelsea haven't been playing the best in recent times, their fans have always stuck by them. I am going to give Chelsea a solid rating of 7 out of 10 for their overall fan base. Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham have quite a similar fan base as Chelsea, with both sides being from the London area. And I have to be honest, every Tottenham fan I have ever met is quite humble and tends to be quite football intelligent. Honestly, I think that anyone who supports Tottenham can't be regarded as a glory supporter, as they simply haven't won anything since 2008. But Spurs fans tend to be very passionate about their team, and we mainly see that during the North London derby, and we can see how much that game means for both sides. I am going to rate Tottenham fans a very good 8 out of 10. I think their £1 billion stadium helps with the atmosphere on match day as well. Liverpool. We move on to Liverpool, who in my opinion are the best supported side in England. I mean, if you walk outside and ask someone who they support, if they do support a team, there is about a 50% chance that team is Liverpool. On one hand, Liverpool are a club with a huge fan base that is supported across the world, and at times the atmosphere around Anfield is amazing. However, in recent times, if you go to Anfield, because of how big Liverpool are as a club, there are many different tourists, which obviously means a worse atmosphere. But at its heart, Liverpool have extremely passionate fans who let the outcome of the football game make their entire week good or bad, which is a completely healthy way to live if you ask me. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to give Liverpool an amazing 9 out of 10. Arsenal. Now last but by no means least on my list, I have got Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal are a club who in recent years have been getting back up to the heights of the early 2000s. Arteta has transformed the football club from one which was struggling since the departure of Arsene Wenger. But they now have young and exciting players such as Bukayo Saka, and their fan base is no doubt similar to Liverpool's in that they got such a massive fan base you can go anywhere in the country and ask someone who they support and there's a good chance they might well say Arsenal. They always look like they're having a good time on away days, and overall they're very good, and I've already mentioned the North London derby means a lot to them as it does to Tottenham when we really see the best of both sets of fans in that game. So finally, as my final rating, I'm going to give Arsenal Football Club an 8.5 out of 10. Outro. Okay, thank you to everybody who watched that video. It took quite a long time to make, to edit, and put in every single team in the Premier League. So if you could please give it a like. If I get 20 likes, I'll do this for the Championship. And please remember that this was just a bit of fun. Please don't take it personally. So thank you so much for watching. If you can then please subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it's completely free. And it is one of my biggest goals to reach 100 subscribers. So if you could help me out with that, that would be amazing. Other than that, then I recommend you go and watch another video on the channel. I would personally recommend my Premier League predictions. Thank you for watching and have an amazing day.